Hi, everybody. I am pretty sure all of us have experienced a phase of life where we went on to take a decision and we end up regretting it. Not because we were careless, not because we were stupid, but because in that very moment, because of that intensity, we reacted. And you see, reaction is not a decision making. It might feel like it, but it's actually not. See, let me give you a context, right? Every single day, we're actually making choices that are quietly building our life. We're making choices in areas like our career, our relationships, and our identity. And the most unfortunate thing is that most people, even today, are doing it with absolutely no system. There's no framework, there's no SOP. This video is going to change that for you. See, before we move on to discuss all the nuances, before anything else, what I want to talk about firstly is that most people are actually solving the wrong problem. For example, the question they ask themselves is, should I take this job? When in reality, the question they should be asking is, this career path that I'm going to take because of this job, will this help me align with my long term goals? Will this help me develop the right skills? Help me build the network that I aspire to build? They're asking, should I end this? When the real question that they should be asking is, hey, have I actually tried with 100% of effort and given it my all? Or have I just gotten tired because I've not seen result? Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm trying to explain here is that the surface level question to make a decision is never the real one. So the next time you actually try to decide anything or trying to sum up a conclusion, rewrite the very same question until it makes you uncomfortable. That stage of discomfort, that phase of discomfort that you're going to experience, that's where the honest version lives. Let me also be very clear. See, every decision has a price that you can see, right? But there is also a side that you actually cannot see, the invisible one. And that is what ends up getting most of us in most of the cases, right? Let's say you say yes to one thing, you're automatically saying no to everything else that particular slot could have actually held. For example, a lot of people want to build startups today, right? And let's say you end up spending 2 years on that startup. That's just not 2 years of time. That's actually 2 years of salary. That's 2 years of stability and 2 years of the other path that you actually gave up to put into building your startup. Most people actually calculate what they're gaining. Almost nobody calculates what they're silently giving up. And this is how you calculate opportunity cost. Ask yourself, if this fails, what exactly did I trade this for? And can I live with that? If you cannot answer this one question clearly and with solid clarity, you're actually not ready to decide. There's also a pattern that I see very consistently, right? Someone makes a decision and then it goes north. And they say, I always felt something was off. I never felt right. Within me, my intuition was always telling me that what I'm actually doing is not what I actually want to do. They always felt it, but they ignored that signal. And you know what ends up happening later? They actually end up paying for that mistake. Now, that feeling is your values talking, your non negotiables. There are few non negotiables like your health, your integrity, your peace of mind, your relationship. See, these are not soft things, they are guardrails. See, if a decision is crossing one of those lines, it should be automatically rejected. Doesn't matter how good the opportunity looks on the outside, or irrespective of what the rewards are going to be, it should always be rejected. Ask yourself, am I bending on this because it's genuinely right, or because I'm actually scared of missing out? Those are very two different things, and know which one is it. I feel this part is one of the most fundamental parts that not a lot of people actually focus upon. See, not all decisions actually deserve the same amount of energy. Yeah, they don't deserve the same amount of energy. Some decisions, let's say you end up taking them, if they go wrong, you can fix it. And there are some decisions that if you take and if they actually go wrong, you can't. For example, let's say you want to move to another city, right? Because you want to get that kind of an exposure, let's say to a tier 1 city. That decision is probably reversible, right? But let's say you're going to talk to someone in anger, or you're going to message somebody in anger, or you're trying to write a mail to your manager when you're in, a devastated mode. That is not a reversible decision. Let's say you're burning a bridge publicly. That is almost never, a reversible decision. This is where people waste so much of their time and their mental energy. They go over reversible things and, rush the irreversible ones, right? You actually flip it. When it's the reversible things, you move fast, right? You take those decisions, you learn as soon as you can, and if it's not working, you actually end up reversing that decision. But with the irreversible decision, because you know that it has a definite amount of impact that it's going to have, which is very difficult to reverse if probably once pushed, that is where you slow down and you actually give it a thought and not think about validation, right? That is going to come after you after taking that decision, even though you know the consequences of that can be much horrible. Ask yourself, if this goes wrong, how do I recover? Right? Because if you can't picture the recovery, then you have your answers. You've not given it enough depth in the first place. I speak to some people and, they always say, I'm actually a step ahead. I've thought about the consequences. I have, gone a level above everybody else to kind of think about what this decision can exactly do to me. Now, what I'm fundamentally trying to explain to you is even that is not enough, right? Because there are layers of consequences. It's just not one layer of consequences, just like there are orders of thinking. See, the first consequence of a decision is always the one that is possibly never going to change your life. It's the second one, it's the third one. For example, you take the high paying job you didn't love, right? You take it because it's paying you a very good salary. Now, the first order thinking, if you have to think about it, you get more money, you feel very great about yourself, is because you can go ahead, spend that money, and you feel that sense of accomplishment. And in the second order, what actually happens is that you have very less time to yourself, right? And you have more stress. And because you don't love what you do, the identity actually automatically starts shifting. Go way further and think about the third order. 2 years later, you don't even recognize who you've become because you've just flown into the state without actually thinking about the layers of the consequence, that today your mind is numb and you're not able to think, right? That's the real cost that you're going to end up paying. And almost nobody sees it coming because they stopped at step one. Ask yourself, and ask yourself constantly, ask it 3 times, and then what? You're going to do this, and then what? You're going to accomplish this, and then what? The third answer or the fourth answer is usually the one that matters. And it's very important that you put every thought process or every decision, every thesis that you're actually planning to implement into this framework. I personally feel this one thought that I'm going to burst right now, this is the one that's going to tie everything together. See, when the logic is equal, when you feel that you've weighed your decision and the pointers and both of them look almost similar, when you're actually having a hard time to choose which one because the consequences of them are the same, what you start to do is you stop comparing the outcomes and you start asking a different question. Which decision moves me closer to the person that I'm trying to become in the short term and the long term? Right? Not who your parents want to be, not who your timeline says you should be, not who your peers or social media or the validation says that you should be, the person you are consciously building, your own thoughts. Because here's what nobody talks about, your decisions don't just create results, right? They're going to create a strong personality, they're going to end up creating you. Every choice is a vote, is a fight for your own identity. Make sure that you're voting for the right one. See, whenever you're stuck, ask yourself these 6 questions on paper, not in your head, right? I already explained the importance of writing in my previous video. What is the real decision that I'm trying to make? What am I giving up that has no price tag, right? Does this cross a line I said I'd never cross? Think about your value system. Is this decision that I'm going to take, is it reversible? And am I treating it accordingly? What happens 3 steps from now? Not one, 3 steps from now. Who does this choice begin to make me? What kind of a person am I actually transitioning to? Write it down. Give some time to yourself because clarity actually lives on paper. Confusion lives in your head. Don't try to decide from the inside. It's just going to become a storm. It's going to become a battle within yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I just want to leave you with one single thing, one thought. Every decision that you've tried to avoid, which you think has suddenly disappeared from your life, it's still living there. It's living as a weight on your confidence. It's living as a quiet voice that says, if you're not fully in control of your own life, here's the brutal truth. Not deciding is also a decision. It just feels like fear made it for you. So, what's the real question has never been, what should I choose? It's who's making the choice right now? The clearest version of me or the most afraid one? You already know which one you want to be. You have the tools, you have the resources, you have the value system. Use them.